June 25th, 1969. No, wait. June 25th, 2009. Los Angeles, early afternoon. A phone call goes out from a mansion in Holmby Hills. The voice on the line is urgent. The address, 600 Carrollwood Drive. The ambulance arrives within minutes. But by the time they reach the bedroom, the room had already fallen silent. He was 50 years old. 50 days away from the greatest comeback in music history. And the man who was supposed to keep him safe had left him alone. Here is what the official story never fully answered. Michael Jackson was not simply a music artist. He owned something. Something worth more than any album, more than any tour. Something that made him one of the most financially powerful individuals in the entertainment industry. And in the months before that June afternoon, the pressure to take that something away from him had become unbearable. This is not a story about music. This is a story about what happens when you own something powerful enough that the wrong people want it back. Most people know Michael Jackson as a performer. What most people do not know is what he owned. In 1985, Michael Jackson purchased the ATV Music Publishing catalog for $47 million. Inside that catalog was more than 250 Beatles songs, every major hit, every iconic recording, the most valuable music rights in history. Paul McCartney had tried to purchase the same catalog. Michael outbid him. And from that moment forward, Michael Jackson held something that an enormous number of very powerful people wanted. Over the following years, the value of that catalog grew from $47 million to over $1 billion. $1 billion. And Michael Jackson owned half of it. This is the detail that changes everything that follows. In 1995, Michael Jackson merged his ATV catalog with Sony Music Publishing. The new company was called Sony ATV. Michael owned 50%. Sony owned 50%. On the surface, a partnership between equals. But look at what happened next. By 2002, the relationship had collapsed entirely. Michael stood outside the Sony Music offices in New York and called the head of Sony Music, Tommy Mottola, a devil. In public, on camera, in front of the world. He said Mottola was a mean, racist, and very, very devilish man. These are not the words of someone having a minor disagreement. These are the words of someone who believed he was fighting for his life. Michael told interviewers directly Sony was sabotaging his album Invincible, refusing to promote it, refusing to fund the marketing, deliberately letting it underperform so that his financial position would weaken, so that he would eventually be forced to sell his share of the catalog that Sony desperately wanted to own entirely. By 2005, Michael Jackson was in serious financial difficulty. His legal costs from a high-profile trial had been extraordinary. His spending over the years had been extraordinary. He had borrowed heavily against his share of the Sony ATV catalog. The loans were secured against the most valuable thing he owned, which meant if he could not repay, he would lose the catalog entirely. Sony was the obvious buyer waiting in the wings. But Michael did not sell. He held on. He negotiated. He restructured. He found ways to keep the catalog in his hands year after year. And then, in 2009, he announced this is it. 50 concert dates at the O2 Arena in London. the largest concert announcement in history. 750,000 tickets sold in hours. The financial projections were extraordinary. This Is It would have cleared Michael's debts entirely. It would have secured his financial independence. It would have made it impossible for anyone to take the catalog from him. He just needed to get to London. In 2009, a doctor named Conrad Murray became Michael Jackson's personal physician. He was hired specifically to oversee Michael's health during the preparation for This Is It. His salary, $150,000 per month. Paid not by Michael Jackson, paid by AEG Live, the concert promotion company organizing the tour. This detail matters because Conrad Murray's employer was not Michael Jackson. His employer was the organization with the most to lose if the tour did not happen. And the treatment Murray administered to Michael Jackson every night was not a standard medical treatment. It was propofol, a powerful surgical anesthetic used in operating theaters, not in bedrooms, not as a sleep aid. Murray administered it to Michael every night for weeks. On the night of June 24th, 2009, Murray administered propofol and other substances and then left the room. He made personal phone calls. He was away from his patient for an extended period. When he returned, the room had already fallen silent. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011. He served 2 years. 2 years. For the loss of the most famous entertainer in human history. Within hours of that June afternoon, the value of Michael Jackson's catalog began to rise. His music flooded streaming platforms. Sales exploded overnight. The estate of Michael Jackson suddenly became one of the most valuable in entertainment history, estimated at over $500 million within the first year. And the Sony ATV catalog, the thing Michael had fought to protect for decades, was eventually sold in 2016 to Sony for $750 million. Michael Jackson was no longer there to negotiate, no longer there to hold on, no longer there to say no. The catalog he had purchased for $47 million, the catalog he had borrowed against, fought for, restructured debt to protect, ended up exactly where certain people had always wanted it. Michael Jackson rests at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. A private location, away from public access, every year. Millions of fans gather at Neverland, at the gates, at the memorials around the world. They hold candles, they play his music, and they ask the same question that has never been fully answered. Was it really just negligence? Was Conrad Murray simply a careless doctor? Or was he something else entirely? Was the man who hired him and paid him truly indifferent to what happened? Or did the timing of that June afternoon serve someone's interests in a way that has never been examined by any official investigation? We do not know. What we do know is this. Michael Jackson spent the last years of his life fighting to keep what was his. He fought Sony. He fought the narrative. He fought the debt. He was 50 days away from winning. And then, the room fell silent. The most talented entertainer who ever lived. Gone. At the precise moment he was about to become untouchable. The truth about what happened on June 25th, 2009, may never be fully told. But the question remains, who benefited most from the silence?